how you define a champion is how a champion reacts. So we saw Paul Newby Frazier always go off the front, always win until she collapsed in 95. And then she came back the following year, reinvented herself, and won. For you, after 2010, you weren't an aero helmet guy. You needed to take your bike and change that. How much did you change from 2010 to 2011? Because the results were dramatic.
Yeah, changed a lot of the equipment. That was where I started. I mean, I think the hard change was going to be mindset and mentality. So I started with the easier changes first, which, you know, we were coming into a time in our sport, as I alluded to before, with the technology and the evolution of equipment. And I think 2009 was the first time we really saw the specific time trial bikes come in and be a major factor. You know, non-UCI legal bikes that were built specifically for triathletes and for time trialing. They were nicknamed the Uber bikes. And, you know, Trek in 09 released their speed concept. Specialized had their Shiv. Scott, they all of the big brands had a specific time trial bike. And, you know, I wanted to get on one. So I got in the wind tunnel and saw the difference it made. And I wasn't ignorant to the aero helmet either. But the first 4 years I raced in Hawaii, I didn't wear one. And, you know, I'd had 2 wins in a second. So
it worked.
And it wasn't, it wasn't a complacency that I didn't think I needed to run out every ground ball, I guess, and dot my I's and cross my T's. It's just that, you know, when you have a nice formula that seems to be doing well, you tweak it a little bit, but you don't overhaul it. And maybe I needed 2010. It was the catalyst that led me to a performance that I knew at that point, I hadn't felt like I had raced my best race in Hawaii. And even though I was turning 38 in 2011, and maybe there were some question marks about whether at that age you can still be competitive. I mean, I had question marks myself, whether I could still be a force at that point. But yeah, I just think 2010 was the catalyst that I needed to make some changes, and there was some equipment changes for sure. I got a much quicker bike. I got the aero helmet. I got my position more dialed in on the bike. I got a race kit that wasn't flapping around. It fitted properly. Just took care of the finer details. And then the bigger change was a different mindset. You know, I'd always done well in Kona by swimming close to the front, biking close to who I considered my main contenders, and then running as close to a 240 marathon as I could. You know, I'd watched for 30 years that seemed to be a good strategy to employ in a race that was that competitive, and being the World Championships, and also had extreme conditions like Hawaii does. So I always rode within myself. I always biked within myself in Kona, well below what I was capable of. But in 2011, the mindset changed. I thought, you know what, I'm going to throw a little bit of caution to the wind, and soon as the first attack comes on the bike, I'm going to go with it. And that was Chris Lieto at the airport on the way out. And I was the first to respond. Didn't look back. Just Chris was about 100 meters up the road. I just chased him for 15 miles, and I took a peek back, and Marino and Luke McKenzie, Marino, Van Honacker and McKenzie had come across as well, and we had a little group of 4 back, and we'd established some separation back to the front group, which had a lot of the main players, Ray Lert, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, so I think 2011 for me was an enjoyable year because I got to race. I guess the shackles came off. I just got to race a different way, a way I had wanted to race.
But you didn't have to before.
I didn't have to. And also, you know, it can be a little irresponsible if you know you can race a certain way and get a great performance just to, I guess, thumb your nose at that to do something else. So, but, you know, we talk about our career as a journey, and the next evolution, I guess, in my journey through the sport was racing a little differently. And that's why 2011 was such a great race and a great performance. I think, you know, I biked close to 420.
15 minutes faster than you did the year before.
Yeah, I was a lot quicker and riding still well within myself. I think we saw the benefits of aerodynamics and well-fitted race suit, much better bike position, aero helmet, the full package. It was the first time I really raced with a full package in Kona. And biked close to 420. You know, they weren't easy conditions that year. It's always tough. It's Kona. And we're still able to close out with a low 240 marathon. So it was very satisfying to get off the bike in second place and take the lead so early on in the race. I felt like a kid again. It was such an enjoyable race. All the love had come back, and yeah, it was just so nice and mentally freeing to break the shackles and do it a different way.